I'd be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge the Organization for Social Media Safety. They play a vital role as an advocate and source of expertise for parents, stakeholders, and Congress itself. As a mother of three, I'm proud to be part of this group of members leading Sammy's Law here in the House. Far too many families and parents have lost a child due to the myriad dangers of social media platforms. And there's a way to help our families keep up. Sammy's Law would allow parents to opt into a third-party safety apps that would notify a parent the moment a problem or concerning content comes up. Imagine how powerful it would be if a parent was able to check in with their kid after seeing a concerning trend with their mental health. Or if a parent could jump in when they get notified that a drug dealer or a friend was pressuring them into trying or buying drugs. I remember my main rule, mine and my husband's main rule, once we were willing to allow our children to have an online presence, was you cannot accept anyone that you don't know as a follower. That has to be the rule. I noticed something on her social media, on one of the social media apps, some weird comments that someone made, and if she was still following that rule, that person shouldn't have been able to make a comment on her app. So I actually pointed it out to her, and it turned out that she had taken that protection off and was letting anybody follow her. She quickly returned to that original plan because it served her well, and she realized that what she had done was a mistake. But we have to make sure that those kinds of mistakes don't bring so much danger to our children that they end up not being with us any longer. There's no such thing as a wasted opportunity to protect your child. The very technology that we have in our homes and our pockets today may be part of the problem, but with this bill, we're trying to bring these devices in as part of the solution. And I'm proud to be a part of that bipartisan solution.
I have a 14-year-old daughter, an 11-year-old son, and what is so scary today is that the minute they pick up their phone, they go off into a separate world, and a world that we as parents in many ways have no control over. So yes, I used to know when they go on their bike, and I can have an app that tells me where they are on their bike or where they're driving to. But I have no app that right now, or no tool that lets me actually see what's going on in terms of their conversations they're having on Snapchat, which disappears. There are others that don't disappear, as you know, but Snapchat disappears. And as they were showing me just today, again, I saw this before, there's signals that can be sent, literally, that drug dealers use, right? Emojis that will tell you, here, you can buy cocaine. Here's how you know that this person's a drug dealer. And once you open it up, the algorithm switches, and you're off and running, and they're coming for you. And so I can't imagine the pain that you all are feeling. I just want you to know that your energy and efforts, along with this phenomenal team here, and I'm hoping all of our colleagues will make sure that others don't have to feel the pain that you're feeling, whether it's about drugs, whether it's about bullying, and how horrific that can be and how scary. I think about this all the time with my daughter, because kids can be mean, really mean, and quick, and then they just jump on the bandwagon, and I get it, they don't want to stand out and speak up, right, as you were talking about today. And that's the dangers of Snapchat or TikTok.
This is not a partisan issue. This is just asking for transparency and giving parents the tools to be parents.
This legislation gives parents options for third-party safety apps that can alert them when dangerous content is being shared with their children and provide mental health resources for children if needed. As a mother, my heart breaks for Sammy's parents and all parents. I want you to know that your work is making a difference, that through your challenge, your despair, comes the energy to do something that all of us in a bipartisan fashion should want to see passed immediately. Your work is saving and protecting children. So thank you for your tireless work to protect children. I urge all of my colleagues to join us and protect our children from dangerous interactions on social media. Thank you so much.
As a pediatrician, children are always top of mind for me. It's why I've worked hard to pass legislation to support children's mental health, to protect them from gun violence, and to protect them from serious dangers online, which is something that we are still working on. Now, some of those dangers are simply from too much screen time. Some are from the addictive nature of social media that keeps children from getting sleep and keeps them from normal social interactions. But there's also this real danger, this very real danger of access to predators or finding information online about suicide, a how-to guide, or increased depression and suicidality and anxiety, and even information that encourages eating disorders. And we are seeing all of these spiking in our children, and it coincides with the use of social media. There's also exposure to extremism and hate groups that specifically targets young boys. And parents need to know if their children are exploring dangerous content, but without ideally violating the parent-teen trust by having to monitor every text and social media account, some of which, as you just heard, Snapchat, disappears. And that's where Sammy's Law comes in. It is meant to protect children. And it gives parents the ability to securely use third-party safety apps for any social media platform that allows children under 17 to use that platform. It's just a way to alert parents if there are posts suggesting an increasing risk for suicide or drug use or eating disorders or predation or dangerous new friends, or as Representative Wasserman Schultz mentioned, just people coming in from the outside who you can't trust. And it also preserves the parent-teen relationship in that way.
This is bipartisan. It's bipartisan for a reason, because this problem is bipartisan. This problem doesn't just impact one party or another party, it impacts all of us. More importantly, it impacts our children. Look, we can be naive and think that this doesn't happen, but we can't be irresponsible. And we're not going to be irresponsible. We're going to address this problem. This is a situation that I can only imagine. As a father, as a grandfather, I can only imagine. I want to thank you for your courage. I want to thank you for being here, and for what you're doing. You are our heroes, and I mean that sincerely. I think Debbie said that no effort to save our children or protect our children is ever wasted. And certainly this is not going to be wasted. What we're trying to do is to save our children. What we're trying to do is to give our parents a tool in the tool chest to use. These apps will work. If it saves one life, it's worth it. That's all we're asking here. This is legislation that needs to pass. This is legislation that we need to be working more on.
When we were sheltering at home, I had just recently said to a girlfriend, the one silver lining of this pandemic is that I have 2 teenage boys stuck at home with me, and I don't need to worry about their safety. Until February 7th, 2021, believed that if any of my children were going to access drugs, they needed to know a drug dealer, know someone who knew a drug dealer, find a drug dealer, go to an area where there were drug dealers. I had no idea that drug dealers were reaching out to my son, accessing my son, and connecting with my son through Snapchat. And unbeknownst to us, as you heard, he was approached by a drug dealer who sent him a colorful menu of all sorts of pills and drugs that he would deliver to our door as easily as a pizza, and did so while we were asleep. And his brother and I found him dead on the floor on Super Bowl Sunday. I haven't cried all day, but as I walk through the halls of Congress with his ashes around my neck, if you'd asked me if I would be here 3 years ago, I would have thought you were crazy. And Sammy's Law is not going to save Sammy, and his brothers aren't going to die through social media, but other children are dying every day. And so we're doing this for them. We're doing this to save other children from Sammy's fate, and to save other families from the devastation that we have to live with every day. And this is a simple law. This is a simple ask. We aren't asking to take social media down. We aren't even asking social media to change, although Lord knows there's a lot they need to change. We want our children to have independence. We want our children to have autonomy. We want our children to be goofballs and to be able to explore. But we also know that good kids make bad decisions, and even more importantly, that there are dangers online. That when you allow, I had no idea before February 7th, 2021, that when we allow our kids on social media, it is the equivalent of dropping them off in the very, very, very most dangerous area with drug dealers and predators and pimps and sextortionists, and expecting them to be able to navigate it by themselves without parental supervision. And what Sammy's Law would allow for is just those guardrails so that they can have the autonomy and freedom, but when they are crossing a line that is putting their lives in danger, when predators are approaching them that they may not even recognize, we can step in. And if we had had Sammy's Law, which of course would not be called Sammy's Law, when Sammy died, he would still be alive today. We would have been able to intervene, and the same is true of every parent in this room who's lost a child. So I'm so, so grateful for the support, and I am so full of prayers that the rest of the lawmakers will join us and see the common sense approach this takes and help us save children's lives, because the social media companies are not going to do it. They are not incentivized to do it. They don't care about our children. They only care about how many users they have, not about the well-being of their users. It is up to us. And until they are legally required to allow safety software, they are not going to.
Cellulars solve the last mile problem using Snapchat, using Instagram's instant messaging, TikTok, Facebook's instant messaging, Discord, the gaming platform. And don't forget the gaming platforms. They play with your children for months before they hit them up for some damage, drugs, or sextortion. And they think they're with their best friend by then. And so they're trusting their children. As my wife says, their corpus callosums haven't developed yet, so they're not making the right decisions. And we're supposed to protect them. But we need a bridge. We need a bridge from their technology into us. They're digital natives, and we aren't. We need a simple system, like exists, apps that will tell us if something dangerous happens on our children's devices. And we need programs that go across devices and across platforms. It can't just be on one platform or the kids will jump over to another. And that's what Sammy's Law does. It requires that all platforms with children allow for safety software integration, and that's the least they can do to put us back in the driver's seat when there's danger for our children. I don't want anyone to have to see what we saw. My son's football team covered him with dirt, one at a time, while we watched. I tried to resuscitate my son and failed. These are things no parent should have to witness. And I can tell you the PTSD that comes from that takes years to go away. We're here with other parents. They're all suffering the same. They've all had the PTSD. Some of them still do.
My name is Rose Bronstein. Standing beside me is my husband, Rob. We're here from Chicago. Congress urgently needs to prioritize social media safety for our nation's children. And I know this because on January 13th, 2022, we lost our son, Nate Bronstein, forever 15, to suicide after he was viciously cyberbullied by his classmates at the Latin School of Chicago. Through Snapchat, Nate was insulted, harassed, and threatened with physical and deadly harm, including a message through Snapchat directing him to go kill himself. One of his tormentors reposted the Snapchat message targeting Nate to 200 friends. Social media, including Snapchat, left Nate with no safe place and no refuge. It enabled horrific bullying that continued 24/7 and spread throughout the Chicago area. It included teens that Nate had never met. The child who is cyberbullied is 4 times more likely to engage in self-harm, attempt suicide, or die by suicide. The phones in our children's pockets are dangerous weapons. Social media platforms are harming our children, and our children are weaponizing social media to harm each other. And in some cases, these harms, specifically cyberbullying, are resulting in devastating and deadly consequences for thousands of families. If social media platforms like Snapchat gave our family the choice to use third-party software, we can attest to you that Nate would be here today. As soon as Nate received those dangerous, life-threatening messages, Rob and I would have been alerted through third-party safety software, and we would have had the opportunity to intervene and protect our son from further harm. This is why we are here today to advocate for Sammy's Law. Sammy's Law is analogous to a seatbelt for our children who use social media. While social media platforms remain unmonitored and dangerous environments for our children, parents need to have the tools to protect our children's social media experiences. Sammy's Law is life-saving legislation. It will result in an immediate impact and minimize the dangers our children are exposed to on social media platforms. We would like to thank Representative Wasserman Schultz, Representative Schreier, Representative Carter, and Representative Miller Meeks for sponsoring Sammy's Law. We call on Congress to pass the common sense bipartisan bill without delay. Please, please, let's protect our children. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Berkman. I'm the CEO of the Organization for Social Media Safety. We are the first and leading national consumer protection organization focused exclusively on social media. I want to thank all of the survivor families that are here today, the Berman Chapmans, the Bronsteins, Schmills, the Nevilles. These are fierce and tireless advocates working to protect children, not only across the country, but across the world. I want to thank Representatives Wasserman Schultz, Carter, Schreier, and Miller Meeks for their bold leadership in answering the urgent call from parents across the country who are begging Congress to protect our children from the dangers of social media. Now let's be clear, these threats are not theoretical. They are severe, they are pervasive, and they are harming children worldwide. On social media, 46% of children report experiencing cyberbullying. Predators extort our children, drug dealers market their drugs, human traffickers target young teens. Suicide, depression, anxiety, and eating disorders rise alongside excessive social media use. The list of dangers is tragically long. Thankfully, we now have Sammy's Law, a bipartisan, common sense intervention that will provide immediate protection to literally millions of children from all these dangers. The bill will finally give parents and caregivers the choice to use third-party safety software on all major social media platforms. Among its numerous capabilities, safety software can provide life-saving alerts to parents when dangerous content comes across a child's social media account. If a child is being preyed upon, bullied, solicited for drugs, safety software can warn parents who can then intervene before serious harm takes place. If a child is ideating on suicide, seeking out content glorifying eating disorders, being exposed to extremist violence, safety software can provide a warning to parents so that they can get their children the help, support, and resources that they need to stay safe. Safety software is a proven, effective intervention already providing protection for millions of children from the harms of social media. The problem is that the social media platforms, for the safety software to work, need to provide data access from the child's account to the safety software. Some of those platforms do provide that access. Others, like Snapchat and TikTok, tragically refuse to do so. This is unconscionable. Children are dying while Big Social denies parents a readily available safety tool. We can change that. It was a privilege for the Organization for Social Media Safety to work with the sponsors of Sammy's Law. After months of deliberate, intentional drafting, this bill is laser focused to give caregivers this critical option to increase child safety while maintaining the highest levels of privacy and data security. We have seen enough broken-hearted parents. We now realize the callous disregard Big Social has for our children. And we know today that we can no longer delay action. For the sake of our children, Congress must pass Sammy's Law with due haste. Thank you very much.